6% of all the global billionaires are going to be in India in the next 5 years.
I think khadi is true luxury. So the connotation of luxury for the foundation is not Louis Vuitton or Hermes. Connotation of luxury for us is khadi, which is handmade, hand-woven, and the whole world stands up to see how this unique fabric is created from our country by hand, and it's so personalized and individual.
Key would be to take India up the value chain in terms of its arts, its crafts, its jewelry.
Welcome to the world of luxury. Yes, this is part 2 of the Luxury Symposium 2017, an event taking place in New Delhi and an event that is trying to decode luxury for now and into the future. Let's see what we have today, including the fact, a very interesting fact today, that a luxury tree, an expert in the field of luxury, created a luxury tree. Every brand and every country that has contributed to the world of luxury had a branch, which is the one country that didn't, India. So we all decided we're going to do something about it.
Rajiv, starting the discussion on luxury with you, because I think if I were to ask the audience, typically we would associate luxury with fashion, accessories, what you wear, what you carry. Gadgets seems to be like a recent addition, if I may say, to the world of luxury, even though we've been using them for so many years. How would you associate gadgets with luxury as we see it now?
I think you've made a very important point, technology and luxury. In fact, I think when you say luxurious technology in the same sentence, it becomes an oxymoron, because literally, other than some very expensive and not worth it audio speakers all around the world, there isn't another area or category that I can define where luxurious technology really sells. I mean, many companies have tried, almost every one of them has failed. And I think there's a very important reason why. Luxury isn't about the price tag, it's not about the product, not the functionality of the product. But in technology, you've actually got to use the product and it must perform. So it's very different from everything else. Just the status or the symbolism or the association or the aura doesn't really work. So therefore, I think the one part that has dramatically failed, in fact, is a brutal failure, is luxury and technology. I'd love to see somebody change it around. I think it would be great if there could be a company. Apple tried it, again failed. They had a gold watch that is very expensive in the Apple Watch series.
What percentage of creativity and marketing would you give to a brand's success?
Well, I think marketing has become maybe 80% to a certain degree, but the creativity is the longevity of the luxury. The marketing is like your first kiss, but then the actual product is the continuation.
Okay.
Rajiv has a mischievous smile on his face.
I just wanted to know, so the first kiss is 80%.
I like your pen.
Antigone, I'm actually very, very proud of the initiative Make in India, which is also a part of what Ritu has done with the Luxury League. And I have a grudge on behalf of all Indians present here. You've developed this fabulous concept of the luxury tree. How could you leave India out of the luxury tree? Please tell us a little bit more about it and then tell us why you've left us out.
We put a branch with India. We added. Okay, the idea was to understand how all that began. I think maybe even in prehistoric time, in ancient times, always women wanted some accessories, wanted bling bling like gold and silver and so on. But brands became much later. And when I tried to see when it began, I finally decided to make a kind of a tree. And the roots, the first brands, still alive today, it's wine, champagne, alcohol. And after, if you go a little, you have jewelry coming, and these names are still living today. And after, you have big things, blooming branches and leaves with a lot of fashion, of perfumes and so on. And we decided to make a branch for every country. And now India has also some names we can put on the branch. With you have Indian designers, you have Ritu Beri and some other people are also showing in Paris now.
Ritu, I was talking to you earlier, and if I may have a mic go up to her, I want you to tell us how you've added or convinced her to add the branch of India to the luxury tree.
Firstly, I have to thank Antigone for making this lovely luxury tree where she had all the brands from all over the world and different products that represented luxury, of course. But she had small countries and big countries. And what she missed and what I missed and what made me start the Luxury League was that India was not in this tree. And that's a real shame because India represents luxury. India is true luxury. There's no one else in this whole world, and I can very proudly say that, and I'm sure all of you will agree, that epitomizes luxury like we do. We live luxury. So I took it upon myself with the permission of my dear friend Antigone, without offending her because she had done such an artistic and amazing job of it. I recreated this tree and proudly added India to it, which I feel completes the tree, because the tree didn't look complete till India was part of it.
So I'm going to start first with Bharti and ask you what meaningful, responsible luxury really means to you. When you read this subject, what was the first thought that came to your head?
I think that culture is absolutely not a luxury. It is the lifeline of a society.
Pawan, how governments could potentially be aiding this process of making culture more widely accessible?
Governments can help if they have the right perspective on luxury. Luxury has three levels. At one level, it connotes a hedonistic insularity, where the pursuit of luxury is irrevocably divorced from the rest of society and therefore creates within a holistic society a cut-off segment of privilege. The second is where luxury, and I say this in the context of what governments must understand. The second is where luxury is seen to be correlated to the pursuit of excellence. Third level, the entire luxury industry is related to issues of employment, of requisite remuneration, to the nurturing of skills. So I have never seen, and no government should see, necessarily a dichotomy between luxury and excellence.
You've spent nearly 25 years of your time with global brands, and the last 3 years you spent understanding how India views the idea of brands, luxury, meaningful luxury. First off, my question to you is there sort of a chase that Indians have or a fear of their own heritage? Because what Pawan and Bharti seem to suggest is that if it's a pursuit of excellence and scholarship and creativity, then are we fearful of going back to our heritage to imbibe that or pull it out or celebrate it?
Yes, I have worked during 25 years, mainly with French designers such as Yves Saint Laurent or Jean-Paul Gaultier, and trying to develop their brand on the international level. And since a few years, together with Ritu, I am really focusing on the Indian culture and Indian brands, because I truly believe that India has everything to become the, let's say, the next luxury hub. Because I really feel that, your countries and your brand and your talent, you have everything. You have the past, the heritage, you have beautiful roots, you have culture, because luxury is nothing else than culture, with excellence, of course.
Bharti, if I was to just pick two words, pricing and luxury, are they likely to still go together? I mean, we've always felt, and Pawan alluded to this earlier, that whenever you talk of luxury, the first thing that comes to your head is a prohibitive price tag. There could be an argument that creativity, can be valued differently for different people. But on the other hand, is this sort of a narrow-minded approach towards what luxury is?
In the 15th century, when Michelangelo painted Christ with an orb, it was the Medici family then were the great patrons of art in Renaissance Italy, and they patronized hundreds and hundreds of paintings across Italy and churches. At that time, there was a great deal of poverty, but all these extraordinary images were created by some of the greatest artists in Europe. And at that time, people traveled all the way. I think 1.4 million people went across Europe. And at that time, you have to remember, it's the 15th century. There are no trains. People are walking and going by bullock cart to see a single painting. And this work is really quite extraordinary. It is Christ, and in his hand, he holds this glass orb. And this is even before mirrors have been invented. So basically, what he was doing was he'd created the universe. And if you understand that art has the power to transform, I mean, Paul Klee was someone who said, color is when the brain meets the universe.
It's time to take a break, not a break from the world of luxury, just a break on the show. Welcome back. This is the Luxury Symposium 2017, and right after the break, I'm taking you to something that I think is very close to all our hearts. Artisans and craftsmen here in India that could actually make India the capital of luxury all over the world.
सबसे पहले आप बताएं, लग्जरी अब एक दुभाषी वर्ड बन गया है क्योंकि आप यहाँ मौजूद हैं. तो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ मीडियम एंड स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्रीज के लिए आप लग्जरी किसे मानते हैं?
आपने बहुत अच्छा प्रश्न पूछा है, यद्यपि मेरे लिए ये अनपेक्षित था, आशा नहीं थी, लेकिन तो भी मैं ज़रूर इसको आपके बीच में रखना चाहूँगा. जिस ढंग से मुझे जानकारी दी गई है कि लग्जरी लीग है, एक फोरम है, और इस फोरम पर सभी लोग अपना विचार भी व्यक्त कर सकते हैं और अपनी बात रख भी सकते हैं. और इसके अंदर जो विषय के बारे में, फैब्रिक्स के बारे में हो, अन्य शिल्प कलाओं के बारे में हो, इन सारी चीज़ों के बारे में जो अच्छी जानकारी रखते हैं वो भी हो सकते हैं. जो स्वयं काम कर रहे हैं, जिनको आप कारीगर कहते हैं, ये भी हो सकते हैं.
How do you connect luxury with textiles? Because textiles have always been luxury. They have always been handmade. They have been about time. They have been about heritage. They have been about slow fashion, and they have been about the craftsman. What has changed, and why do you call textiles luxury today?
I cannot differentiate as to what is luxury and what is essential. That we have to address this question in this panel. And we have always bridged the gap between the two. And until recently, and even till today, they are an essential, hand-woven, beautifully decorated, embroidered, enriched. They have been part of our rites of passage from even pre-birth to the final act of the last journey.
Let me come to Jaya Jetli. Definition of luxury has become elastic. I'm sure you have your own definition as well. Please tell me about, and the audience, about your definition of luxury.
I was talking to a friend who's doing a luxury workshop in Auroville at the moment, and I asked her, what have you been discussing and how would you talk about luxury? And she said, people who want today those things that are luxurious, which come in magazines, which are so heavy and glossy, I don't open them, I throw them away. They talk about very fancy wristwatches and handbags and boats and cars, which never in my lifetime would I afford. I can't even afford that magazine. So what does luxury actually mean? So let's knock out the flaunting of status. Luxury, actually, I would like to say, is just a state of mind.
Saxena ji, let me come to you. As chairperson of Khadi and revitalizing Khadi's image and all that, what I understand of your work as a journalist is, आप खादी को हिंदुस्तानी कंज्यूमर के लिए री-रेलेवेंट बनाना चाहते हैं. आप उसे फिर से आज़ादी दे रहे हैं, खादी को आज़ाद कर रहे हैं. Now, when you are given this word luxury, आपको क्या baggage नहीं महसूस होता? Will you like to do a khadi show in Paris, or do you want to sell khadi to ONGC and Indian Railways and Air India and all that? Doesn't it create a conflict in your work, this word luxury? Why should khadi be luxury?
Khadi is a national fabric. And why khadi is so important these days? Because it has the capacity to create employment in the remotest part of the country. मैं समझता हूँ खादी लग्जरी है. जब आप बंगाल का मसलिन पहनते हैं जो 500 काउंट का होता है, जिसे कोई मशीन नहीं बना सकती, that is handcrafted, वो लग्जरी है.
People who create textiles, hand spinners of this country, are amongst the poorest. So the benefits of skill development and benefits of creating superior products is going to the consumer. But what about the back end?
Luxury cannot only be for just a very few who have money, and that cannot define luxury, as I earlier said. So if we want luxury for everyone, then the producer of that luxury also has to have a fair deal. That producer has to be asked in his or her life what is considered luxury. And perhaps a forum like this could form a new framework for the definition of luxury, which I think has to come as a new moral ethic.
How do we redefine luxury in the 21st century? And how much is it about patronage? So coming to you, Babji, Umaid Bhavan, one of the most spectacular palaces of the world, was built at a time of a drought. And your ancestors commissioned the most phenomenal construction at a time when there was a severe drought as a mode of generating employment. So in that context, what do you see as the role of today, whether it's the corporate world or the industrialists or government patronage, but what do you see as patronage vis-a-vis luxury and great art?
When you talk about Umaid Bhawan, something that is done with passion, with excellence, and with a sense of responsibility, it will last forever. Who knew when Umaid Bhawan was made as it was a palace for a Maharaja, yes, no doubt. And many people think that Maharaja got cheap labor. But the fact is that he was not very keen on building a palace. He wanted to provide labor, and the state had gone bankrupt because of the drought, and it was his private project. And he provided the labor. And everyone said, people then in those days said, give us work. They didn't want handouts. And in the process, it was something that was local, to use local stone, use local labor. Of course, they got specialists from outside. But who knew at that time that this building would provide two new industries? It's the sandstone industry of Jodhpur, which provides labor to about 30,000 people. Today, the pink sandstone of Jodhpur is now famous worldwide. And secondly, tourism.
What is your take on the quality of Indian craftsmanship would you concede that the Mughals are perhaps the zenith of where we took every craft to its absolute luxury?
I think so. I think that certainly Shah Jahan took luxury to another level, but we should also recognize at the same time that it cost him his empire. The cost of building the Taj Mahal and simultaneously Delhi was more or less heralded the end of the Mughal Empire. There was nothing, he bankrupted his treasury. India was in famine at the time. But there was absolutely not an inch of compromise on the excellent in every element. And I think what is particularly spectacular in Mughal architecture, and then it found resonance in many subsequent buildings, is the mass and the minutiae, the excellence of both. And they managed to, the fineness of the craftsmanship in the mass of the building is really what exemplifies the synthesis of Hindu and Mughal architecture.
What are your personal views on heritage and continuing living heritage rather than just dead sites?
I think my education in England and travels in Europe had a big influence on me. And I went to England in the 50s, when the impression in India was that anything old is of no value, and we have to become modern and move ahead and leave our heritage behind. When no one talked about heritage in those days, it was things that are old. They reminded one of the colonial past or the Rajas, and were regressive. When I went to England and I realized and traveled in Europe that here we had industrial, modernized democracies where they had looked after their heritage. So first thing was to convert Umaid Bhawan into a hotel. That's what it lent itself to. It was built as an official residence of a Maharaja for entertainment, for culture, for hospitality. We expected to have tourists, of course, but more than that, the local people came in and they owned it. They began to own it as their own.
What do you see as the future if India were to take back the mantle of luxury, whether it's in built heritage, architecture, art, craft, fashion, design, jewelry, textiles? What do you see as its future way forward in terms of just sheer policy?
I think one of the sort of very important things about this whole luxury sector is to enable the top end. Its benefit is all the way across the board. And that we need to recognize and factor into the way because in India it's essential to factor in the craftsman or the farmer or the whole service chain or the whole chain of the development of the luxury sector. I think we need to look at Rajasthan. It's a very, very interesting example where the state has moved substantively to provide the infrastructure. Roads are superb, connectivity is all happening, there are airports coming, they've done wonders to their railway stations. So that hinterland development needs to take place across India and provide an enabling environment where the private sector can work much harder at spreading that development, and that diversification is finally what will make it work, is my view.
So that then is the Luxury Symposium 2017. Many different outtakes, a very, very different analysis, and I think a lot of hard work that we've actually chalked out for the rest of the year, which means we'll see you on the Luxury Symposium 2018.